Welcome back to the Racing Insiders on MAVTV, the only weekly sports car content in broadcasting. I'm Bill Wood in Los Angeles. Peter Keene is in Cocoa Beach, Florida. Peter, what's going on down there?
Beautiful day in paradise, Bill.
Beautiful day in paradise. Don't you love Peter? And Jim Daniels, what's going on in Memphis, Tennessee?
Well, I'm just still getting over the weekend. The racing community tightened up this weekend with Alan Simonson passing away at Le Mans. It's been very interesting to see how some of these competitors were at each other's throats. The Twitter conversations have been very nice, very pleasant, and it certainly is a small family when something like this happens. Bill?
We're going to talk a little more about the Le Mans 24-hour. In fact, that's coming up first in this broadcast. We've got conversation about the battle that's going on at the front of the Rolex GX class and the battle that's going on in the Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge. And are you kidding me? We've got the June sprints. We've covered sports cars all over the map. But first, let's look at what's happening with the Le Mans 24-hour. A sad story, a great story, but covered by the sadness and the death of Alan Simonson that had an impact on the Audi team that won the race. Let's listen.
For sure you have different things and mixed emotion at that time, but I think the support of my team, I think the support of having known Alan, it's a privilege, and a combination, because I went into this race, I wanted really to race for my dad, because he passed away this year. But if I just imagine myself sitting down, having a little Danish beer with Alan and my dad, then we would both agree that I should try to win this race with Audi for Alan. And this is what we did. So you don't call that a happy ending. Yeah.
It was tremendously difficult in so many ways, from the racing point of view. With the way the weather was, with the competition, with the way it turned out at the end with the heavy rain showers, then just you were on the edge all the way through. You couldn't afford to make the slightest of errors, and it was so easy to do that. But the car was so sure-footed. I'm quite glad we had Quattro, to be honest with you. But now it's just relief. It's happiness, it's relief, but it's tinged with a little bit of sadness, with the passing of a fellow competitor. And, it's another driver's like your brother.
Guys, it was a crazy weekend at Le Mans. The death of Alan Simonson, the rain on one side of the track and dry on the other side of the track. Jim, you've been a driver. How difficult is that to navigate?
These conditions that was at this track this weekend was horrific, the worst it possibly can be. What was most interesting to me was 2 points. Was a Corvette being off pace. Just couldn't believe the car wasn't up to speed. But if you watch the broadcast, it gave a little bit of a snippet in there. It said the new car is done. It's being skinned right now. When these guys get back from Le Mans, we're going to be plumbing the car and testing. So I don't know if this wasn't a throwaway race. What do you think, Peter?
Well, again, I mean, sad day at Le Mans for sure. And then, the weather was treacherous. I couldn't believe it was so easy for even top-notch guys to make mistakes and go for a ride and just throw the thing off. I mean, I wouldn't want to be calling the race with those conditions. I'll tell you for sure, Bill.
It really was difficult to watch, and I can only imagine for the drivers and the teams. And Jim, you're right, it did seem strange to see the Corvette so far out of place. And listening to that soundbite with Tom Kristensen has been a difficult year for him. His father is very close with his father, and I can imagine he was very close with Alan Simonson. They're both from Denmark, and him getting the win, his 9th, unprecedented. It didn't get a chance to celebrate because of the heaviness on his heart with that event. The 24 hours at Le Mans, a wild weekend, and just a difficult time for all concerned. We've got a lot coming up on the Racing Insiders. We've got battles going on in Grand Am Rolex GX and Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge. We've got it covered here on the Racing Insiders right after this.
Let us know what you think about what the Racing Insiders have to say. Tell us on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back. This is the Racing Insiders on MAVTV. We got a chance to look at some of the battles that are going on in Grand Am and Rolex GX competition in particular. Jim had a chance to talk to one of the drivers. Jim, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Had a chance to sit down with my driving instructor, Tom Long, at longroadracing.com, the driver of that GX car. Finally got a win at Mid-Ohio. Here's my interview.
Yeah, it's a fantastic experience and opportunity to be with Speed Source and Mazda, and to get our first win at Mid-Ohio has been really important to the entire program, and of course to me, being my first Rolex victory is ultra exciting. The teams work so hard. You know, we have taken a brand new Mazda 6 Skyactiv diesel, 2014 model, and literally developed it from the ground up. And the Speed Source guys have worked hard to get the program to where it is. And for the team, it was a hat trick. It's their third win. And for the 70 car, the car that I'm in with Sylvain Tremblay, is our first win. And we're hoping for more coming up real soon.
The other side of that battle is Dr. Jim Norman, a surgeon in Tampa, Florida, who's leading the points in the Rolex GX category.
Yeah, the Mazda guys, I've known Tom Long and Sylvan for a while, and they've been good friends. And boy, I tell you, they got their act together. They've really been working hard. And my hat's off to those guys, but they've really put together a great team and car.
Let me ask you about the Glen that's coming up. Anything special that you have planned? I know the Porsches are better in endurance than the Mazdas are shown. What do you have planned for this weekend?
Well, we're really looking forward to it. You know, the Mazdas are they're faster than we are. Now that they've got the reliability problem a little bit fixed, they're I think a little bit faster than we are, and but I still think that we've got the reliability on them. So thankfully, this is a 6-hour race, and I fully intend on kicking their butts this coming weekend. The Porsche, we can run that thing full bore for 6 hours and not have to worry about reliability. And I think that they may not be able to do the same. So we're after them, and they better bring their A game.
This is a new class, but it's old battles. They're going to be going hot and heavy when they get to Watkins Glen this weekend. Let's go to Peter. What do you have to think about all that, Peter?
Well, a couple things, Bill. I mean, that Tom Long's super fast and is really, really nice guy. Funny thing is, our flight got canceled last year on our way to the 6 hour, and I got to spend like 4 hours in a car with him from Philly to Watkins Glen. And he might be fast as heck on the racetrack, but he doesn't drive the speed limit on the highway. He was driving me crazy. He was going awful slow. And as we switched over to BGB and Dr. Norman, the Mazdas have picked up the pace, and they're fast now. You know, I know that the one thing that the Porsche is down on is fuel economy. The Mazdas are getting way better fuel economy, so that's going to hurt them in a 6 hour race. But, you know, the Mazdas haven't been very reliable, so that might help the Porsche. You know, it should be a great battle.
That sounds like what Jim Norman is banking on is the reliability of the Porsche in endurance.
Exactly.
Let's go to the other battle that's going on in Grand Am, the Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge. Had a chance to talk to Matt Bell, who is in a driving in a Camaro, Stevenson Motorsports, with John Edwards. Jim?
Yeah, he's a great guy. John Edwards is one of my heroes, teammates with him a few years ago at RDR. And kid is fast, really fast. And you got a co-driver in this Camaro that's turning equal lap times at most tracks. Pretty impressive. Here's my piece with Mr. Bell. I got Matt Bell with us on the Google Hangout, Mid-Ohio, third place today. Matt, you and I have a couple things in common. We got the same agent at P1 Group, and we both are teammates or have been teammates with John Edwards. So filling our fans, you guys had a great win holding off Andy Lally down in Atlanta. To me, it looked like that was a turning point for the points championship. On the podium this week, which is wonderful. What would you need to do to get that car in the top spot this weekend?
Yeah, that Rum Bum car's real fast, and a lot of it comes down to what we're working with in this championship. I mean, when you look at it, we're in a Camaro SS. We're just a standard kind of a hot rod style car. It's not a car that was really ever made to go road racing. The 13 car is the Porsche. That's whole lifeblood is road racing. Same thing with the BMW, and honestly, same thing with the Boss 302R. They did a lot of work on that car to make it kind of a comparable road racing car. So it's tough, but there are some ways that we can really capitalize on the 13 cars issues, and as hard as it is to say, they're John and I are what you would consider an all-pro team. So John and I are usually about the same speed. We can use that because there is a speed difference between Matt Plum and Nick Longi sometimes. So if we push a little bit harder early, if we have the car set up to do it, that's really how we're going to win these races, is by having me push harder, get ahead of him early, and then let John just play defense once he's in the car.
Some interesting comments there from Matt Bill. It's always fun to hear drivers say, we got 2 pro guys in our car, was essentially what I heard him infer there. And which insinuates to some of the other guys are using gentlemen and pro drivers, which is the makeup of the show or the makeup of the series that we could have a whole show upon. We've talked about in the past. Peter, what's your take?
Well, I got to agree with you that, it's impressive that Bell's as fast as John Edwards, because John Edwards is one of the fastest guys in GS or in the Grand Am GT. The other thing is, I got to tell you, they've got tough competition with that Rum Bum Porsche, because Joe Vardy is the smartest guy in the Continental paddock. I can tell you that right now. Nobody knows what he's up to. He's like the magician. Now you see me, now you don't. How about this, Bill?
The thing that resonated with me, guys, was when he talked about the Rolex cars being more race cars and the cars in the Continental Series being more production street cars. I think that's what that's why the manufacturers are so interested in, and you get the huge fields. And the other thing about these huge fields, it's a real learning experience to navigate all those cars. Right. I think the Continental Series is a very good series. The competition is close and a good series to learn in. Speaking of learning, the June sprints, a lot of SCCA pro drivers have come out of the June sprints. We're going to hear why right after this. This is the Racing Insiders on MAVTV. We'll be right back.
This segment of the Racing Insiders was brought to you by GoRacingTV.com, for racers by racers.
Welcome back to the Racing Insiders. Earlier, we had a chance to talk to Eric Prill, Vice President of Marketing and Communications at the Sports Car Club of America, about one of the club's 2 signature events, the June Sprints. Eric Prill, welcome to the Racing Insiders. And the June Sprints, people that don't know sports car racing don't understand the importance of the June Sprints. Quickly, tell us how important it is.
Well, a lot of auto racing started in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, back into the 50s, and this year we had the 50th running of the WeatherTech Chicago Region June Sprints, annually the biggest non-runoffs event that SCCA has, the runoffs being our national championship event. So each year we have well over 300 competitors that head up to Wisconsin for really some tremendous racing in the middle of or in early summer at such a historic track like Road America.
You have 2 veteran SCCA racers here. Peter, get in there.
Well, Eric, it's a great event. I've run it a couple of times. Speak about that the runoffs is going elsewhere next year, and then I think the June Sprints will be right back to its luster.
The June Sprints has long been a destination for people, and I happen to agree with you. I think that once the runoffs moves, you may actually see a spike in the June Sprints, because who doesn't want to go up to Road America at some point throughout the year? Some people will go twice, 2, 3 times, but for those that travel, it could definitely help the event next year.
Pro racers are wanting to come back to win the runoffs, especially we got the 50th June Sprints. This is also, ironically, the 50th runoffs. Pretty big show. Right. Tony Rivera, Scott Tucker, guys like me, everybody's wanting to come back and win the runoffs. Talk about what's creating that appeal. Is it a bucket list syndrome? What's going on with winning the runoffs these days?
Jim, you know how difficult it is to win the runoffs. You've been fortunate enough to stand on top of the podium, but it doesn't come easy. And there are a lot of guys that have been in SCCA club racing and participated and raced toward a national championship and haven't quite been able to pull it off. The biggest name that comes to mind is Michael Andretti. The things that he went on to do, tried to win the runoffs, never did. So we do have a lot of guys that have gone on to have pretty solid pro careers, championships in professional racing, and some of these guys are coming back. You know, we hear about John Morton coming back to run the 50th runoffs, but it really is going to make for one of the greatest fields that we've ever seen at the runoffs, and it's very fitting being the 50th runoffs.
Well, it's few times I get to say this, but I'm so proud that I know Peter and we do this show together with his stature and making the rules to help my little class be BOP to say balance of performance. Peter, I really applaud you for what you do, especially for what you're going to do in e-production. Bill?
Eric, before we get away from here, do you have any ideas? The SCCA ever done any studies on the number of guys the percentage of guys who win the runoffs or the June sprints and go into careers as successful professional drivers?
We haven't done we don't have any real scientific data, but I can tell you as the guy that, and part of the department that looks at the runoffs historical database, which has almost 8,000 drivers that have participated in the national championship runoffs over the years. And when you go through that list, it's a who's who in sports car racing in North America. And it really has become a springboard. It was back in the 60s, you know, when you think about the Donahues of the world, and then you get into the 70s and Elliott Forbes Robinson, and in the 80s and Paul Newman in the 90s, and a guy like Jim Daniels. Or Randy Popst and some people, Peter Cunningham, that have gone on to great success in professional racing. So it continues to be.
SCCA racing is a springboard. Some people use it as a destination. The SCCA is a relationship with Pirelli World Challenge. But a lot of people go to the runoffs and go to the June sprints and end up your fans, people that cheer for them, and their history is in the SCCA. Eric, it's great to talk to you again. Hope to see you at a racetrack soon.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
So what's going on in our minds? Are you kidding me? That's coming up next on the Racing Insiders on MAVTV. Stick around. You'd be surprised what you hear.
This segment was brought to you by the Sports Car Club of America.
Are you kidding me?
This is our favorite part of the Racing Insiders. Are you kidding me? What's going on in our heads? Peter, take it away.
Hey, Bill, my are you kidding me is the performance balancing there at Le Mans. You know, everybody said leading up to Toyota wouldn't have the speed. I was glad to see that Toyota had the speed to run with the Audis. You know, that Audi contingent's a juggernaut. But I got to tell you, the Porsches and GTE got a break just before Le Mans, and then they just cleaned house. Nobody could run with them. You know, here's a big, strong Corvette effort and maybe a little lesser factor, the Viper effort, and they weren't even in contention. And the Porsches, I guess they knew how to lobby the ACO, and they just ran off and left everybody. And I got to give one call out to Dempsey Racing. They did a great job. I think that was the best showing for an American team, and they actually were in the fastest GTA AM race lap. Jim?
Yeah, you know, mine's going to be international track safety. Had a tragedy there this weekend. We talked about at the top of the show, and we got a lot of technology in our sport. As a driver and a family guy, you only have to look at it this way. We know exactly how fast cars should be going when they hit a hard wall. We know exactly how fast cars should be going when they hit a soft wall to minimize injuries. Something has to happen. You know, I know we like the show and the speed and the excitement, and getting injured and killed is a part of motorsport racing, but we got so much technology in these cars, so much technology from these manufacturers, track technology out there in various parts of the world. You know, we really should be thinking about how fast is this car going at this moment and what can it hit. On street courts in the U.S. and street courses elsewhere, they minimize the speed with chicanes and what have you. Make sure those hardwall impacts are contained within a speed that minimizes injuries. It's time we take a look at that. Bill?
Jim, a great point. You know, mine is a little less serious. Are you kidding me? I was standing in line at Irwindale Speedway Saturday night to get something to eat, and there were 4 women standing in front of me, a great-grandmother, a grandmother, a mother, and a daughter. And they were all cheering for one guy racing in a truck race, and the daughter was happy to be there. She wasn't texting on the phone. She wasn't mad. She wasn't goth. she was just happy to be there with her mom and grandmother and so forth. It was a great story. It was really fun to talk to them. They were having a grand time. Are you kidding me? It is possible to get the kids involved in what the parents are doing. We'll be right back. This is the Racing Insiders on MAVTV. Before we get out of here, let's get an idea of what the other Racing Insiders are doing this weekend. Peter, let's go to you first.
Hey, Bill, I'm hopping on a jet plane heading to Watkins Glen for the 6 hour. Things are looking good for the Spirit of Daytona. We got the fast Spaniard Antonio Garcia coming back and joining the boys, Westbrook and Taylor. So we're looking forward to a good run there at the Glen.
Yeah, Peter, I enjoyed seeing Garcia spin that Corvette out at Le Mans. It made me feel a little bit more human. I've learned how to set up some some Twitter channels so I can separate out Pikes Peak and the 6 hours at the Glen with my own new channel, so I can follow all the action and be ready to report our bus chops. And that's what I got planned for the weekend, Bill.
We've touched on it here. Coming up this weekend, the 6 hours at the Glen, the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb, with the big battle for the overall unlimited with Reese Millen and 9-time World Rally Champion Sebastian Loeb, and the Global Rallycross is at X Games Munich. That's all this weekend. We'll cover it next week on the Racing Insiders. Until then, take care of each other, respect each other. Let us know what you think on Facebook and Twitter. Take care of each other. Want to see you again next week. Peace.